Week 3 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking this week. Number 1, the Green Bay Packers. They've been the best defense so far in the early going the first 2 weeks of the season. And this week, a great matchup at the Cleveland Browns. An offense that can't really move the football down the field. Joe Flacco, a veteran quarterback that turns the football a whole lot. And if you get a hand on him, he's going to go down where the mobility obviously isn't there for Joe Flacco anymore. So with Micah Parsons added to the mix of a already good defense this week, I expect they go to the dog pound in Cleveland and have a big game. Number 2, the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks DST last week went into Pittsburgh, took care of business, had a good game. And this week, a good matchup with the New Orleans Saints coming to town. So the Saints, their 2 games of the year were home. But this Saint offense, I know they got some guys on paper that could go out there and make plays, but Spencer Rattler, I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He takes a decent amount of hits, holding on to the football too long, and he could turn the football over as well. So Seattle, after coming off a good performance at Pittsburgh, I think back home this week with the 12th man, has another good ball game versus a mediocre offense. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs 0-2 on the season. Their backs against the wall, obviously. And this week, a matchup at the New York Giants where this offense, week 1, they couldn't get anything going or even score a touchdown. And then last week, versus the Dallas Cowboys, they exploded. But I think this Kansas City Chiefs defense, anchored by Chris Jones, McDuffie in the secondary, they're going to go out there and play a good game at the New York Giants. And like I said, with their season on the line, 0-2 on the year, this defense is going to get pressure on Russell Wilson early and often. I don't think Wilson's going to have the time or make the big plays like he did versus the Dallas Cowboys. And the Chiefs bring this Giant offense back down to earth and have a good game this week, where I could see this game being in the mid-teens, low 20s, where the Giants have trouble scoring in this one. Number 4, the Buffalo Bills. So Thursday night game, division matchup, AFC East, Miami Dolphins coming to town. And this Dolphin team, they're turning the football over. I know they scored a decent amount of points last week versus the New England Patriots, but this Buffalo Bill defense, after the week 1 embarrassment, even though they won 41-40, they clamped down and shut down Justin Fields and the New York Jet offense. I think this week versus Miami, they're going to have tough sailing a little bit. Is this Miami offense? You know, Tua, he's been getting sacked behind that bad offensive line in the early going, and I think he's good for a turnover or 2 in this one. And if the Bills get off to an early lead like they did last week, they can make them one-dimensional and start teeing off. Number 5, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons defense has definitely improved. Last week, they hurt J.J. McCarthy. He's out now 2 to 4 weeks with a knee injury, and they sacked him 6 times, and they held that offense without a touchdown. So this week, a good matchup at the Carolina Panthers. With Bryce Young, he's definitely improved from last year a little bit, but this Panther team, 0-2 on the season. This is a division matchup, and like I said, the Falcons have a vicious pass rush. So in this ball game, I believe they go out there, Atlanta, and take care of business, and they were a hot waiver wire pickup this week. Number 6, the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts at home, I've said this in other videos, they've been way better at home than they've been on the road over the last couple seasons. But this week, a good matchup at the Tennessee Titans, an offense that doesn't have much going. And obviously, they're going to have growing pains with Cam Ward in there at quarterback, where he's a rookie, and he'll have some decent moments in some games where he turns it over. So I think Indianapolis could get pressure in this one. Their offense is playing well, and if they could get off to an early start, they can make Tennessee one-dimensional, and pretty much only Ridley and Tony Pollard, the 2 top threats in that offense. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs, last week they played a good defensive game, and that was a defensive battle majority of the second half in that one. And the Bucs obviously pulled it out and won 20-19 at the Houston Texans. The New York Jets are coming to town. Tampa Bay's home opener. Justin Fields in concussion protocol. We don't know if he's going to play, but I'm not expecting really Fields to play in this one. So Tyrod Taylor, it's most likely going to be in this game. And obviously they got Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, but if Tampa can limit those guys like they did Nico Collins and Nick Chubb most of the game on Monday night, I think we see a similar performance from Tampa Bay like we did versus Houston with maybe a few more sacks. Number 8, the Minnesota Vikings. This Viking defense, they're a strong unit. They get to the quarterback, especially with Robert Flores, one of the best defensive coordinators making the play calls in the league. And this week here, Cincinnati, we know they got a high-powered offense, but now with Joe Burrow out 3 months with the turf toe, Jake Browning stepping in at quarterback, and this offense is definitely going to take a step back. But Jake Browning, definitely a capable backup quarterback to go out there and put points on the board. But Minnesota, home in this one, after getting embarrassed from the Falcons, I think they go out there and have a good defensive ball game. Number 9, the Houston Texans. So the Texans last week, They did a good job, I thought, versus Tampa Bay majority of that game. And this week, a decent matchup at division rival, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars' O-line isn't all that great. Trevor Lawrence still could turn that football over at a decent rate. And Jacksonville's top two receivers, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, so far have struggled in the first 2 weeks of the season. So Houston, we know they got a good pass rush. We know they got one of the better corners in the league, Stingley, where he had a good game versus Mike Evans last week. So I think at Jacksonville, this defense once again could put out a similar outing like they did last week in that one versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles, we know they're a great defense, great pass rush, no doubt about it. Last week won another one in a tight contested game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And this week it's a tough matchup, no doubt about it, with the Los Angeles Rams coming to town with two stud receivers, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams in the backfield, and a smart quarterback like Matthew Stafford. So I think Philadelphia, they still get a couple sacks in this one. We know Stafford throughout his career has taken a lot of sacks. I think they'll get maybe an interception or two, but Los Angeles obviously very capable of putting points on the board. But Philadelphia, their defense at home has been a way better unit over the last couple seasons than on the road. Number 11, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers, they've had trouble giving up a lot of points in the early going is Pittsburgh. This week they go to New England versus young quarterback Drake May, and I think this could be an offensive struggle a little bit for both these offenses. Like I said, Drake May's playing good football, no doubt about it, but limited options. Stephon Diggs in that offense, Keyshawn Boutte, Hunter Henry, Stevenson, and Henderson out of the backfield. But Pittsburgh, they got great guys on defense. Obviously, TJ Watt leading the way. They got Hayward on the defensive line, Jalen Ramsey, got Delmarius Slay. So I just don't know what the problem's been with this defense, where they've anchored this team for many seasons, and now they actually got a capable offense, and so far have struggled to make stops. But this week in New England, I think they buckled down is this defense. I know Drake May's playing well, but he's a young quarterback, and I think a few mistakes could be kept in this game, and this could be a grinded out ball game. Mid-teens, low 20s between these teams. And the 12th and final DST I'm ranking is the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders is a 1 week use. Good matchup versus the Vegas Raiders. Geno Smith, he didn't look good last week for this Vegas Raider team. Overthrowing receivers, not making the right throws, holding on to the football too long. And also Brock Bowers, he's not 100% with a knee brace, limping around out there, even though he fought through it on Monday night's game and still showed some production. But like I said, Washington, their defense has been better at home than it's been on the road over the last season. And with Dan Quinn as the head coach, you know, he's a great defensive mind, going to his days back with the Legion of Boom, and then a couple seasons in Dallas where he revitalized that defense until he became the head coach last season for the Commanders. So this week is a streaming option and a top 12 option. I like the Commanders this week, so that's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for week 3 of the fantasy football season.